10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 58. Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode 58 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. My name is Nick Manella. I am the creator and host of the show, and on it I will be guiding you through a short and concise jazz lesson every single week here on the podcast, complete with downloadable PDF, which you can find at our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com. That's the number 10minutejazzlesson.com. Speaking of a short and concise jazz lesson every single week, are you a fan of the podcast and you'd like to support us and keep us going? Well, please consider joining the Inner Circle at our website. You can find it on the Inner Circle tab. This is only $10 a month, and it is a great way to show your support for our jazz lessons every single week. If you get something out of these shows, please consider donating $10 a month to us, and you'll get some awesome things in return. Each and every month, you will get a new transcription from a different instrument. You will also get all of the useful vocabulary broken down from the solo and put on a separate sheet, along with some other great practice material that'll give you something brand new to work on every single month for only $10. Now, don't forget, you're also getting 4 fresh episodes of content every month, along with those PDFs so that you can really build your library of material to work on. So please find it in your heart to give us that $10 a month and keep the podcast going. We would really appreciate it. Again, you can find that at the Inner Circle tab on our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com. All right, let's jump into today's episode. So today is a really special episode. One of my favorite sounds in the whole world is harmonic minor. And if you're not sure what harmonic minor is, you're in the right place because we're going to explain it to you and then give you some examples on how to get this scale under your fingers and also a little bit of material about how to use it in action. So the first thing we need to talk about is what is harmonic minor. So hopefully most of us know that there are 3 forms of the minor scale. There's natural minor, melodic minor, and harmonic minor. So today we're going to be talking about the harmonic form of the scale. And this is pretty essential information for you to know how to figure out what the 3 forms of the minor are and how to use them a little bit. So we already talked about melodic minor on a previous episode of the podcast. And today we're going to talk about harmonic minor. As I said earlier, this is one of my favorite sounds because it contains some really interesting intervals that make it very different than any other form of the minor that we're going to come across. So let's talk about how to form a harmonic minor scale. I'm going to relate it back to the major scale because I think that's the easiest thing to do, and I'm sure that most of you are familiar with your major scales. If you're not, you should definitely make that happen as soon as possible because the major scales are obviously the basis for most things that we're going to talk about here. So we're using the A harmonic minor scale on your PDF this week. So make sure you have that in front of you while you're checking this out. So let's think about an A major scale. What do we have for a key signature for A major scale? Well, we have 3 sharps. We have an F sharp, a C sharp, and a G sharp. So the difference between A major and A harmonic minor is we're going to flat the 3rd and we're going to flat the 6th. So let's think about the 3rd of an A major scale, which is C sharp. We're going to take that note and we're going to flat it. It becomes C natural. Now we're also going to go up to the 6th. So if you count up to the 6th, that is our F sharp. We're going to take that and we're also going to flat it. So our F sharp becomes F natural. We're going to leave the 7th exactly the way that it is. So we're going to keep that as a G sharp. So now what we have is we have an A scale with only a G sharp. All right, no other sharps or flats involved, just a G sharp. And that's going to give us our harmonic minor sound. So if you look at the first example on your sheet, it's basically just an A harmonic minor scale. So let me play that for you so you can get it in your ears. I bet you've heard the sound of this scale before. You may have just never known exactly what it was. Here's what the harmonic minor scale sounds like straight up and down. So this scale has a very interesting sound to it, and that's what makes it one of my favorite scales in the world. It almost sounds kind of Eastern, doesn't it? And the reason why that is that we actually have a minor third built into the scale, and it's one of the only scales that actually does that. So if you think about the distance between the flat 6 and the major 7, it's actually a whole step and then a half step. So you get the interval of a minor third in a scale, which makes this a really, really interesting sound and makes it a really useful sound that many people won't be expecting out of your playing. So let's take a look at the arpeggio as well. So basically what this is, the arpeggio is just a minor third with a major seventh on top of it. Okay, so I'm sorry, I said a minor third. I meant to say a minor triad. So it's a minor triad with a major seventh on top of it. And again, it gives it a really, really interesting sound because normally we don't hear that major 7 on top of, let's say, a Dorian scale or a typical minor 7th chord. We're not hearing that major 7. Here's what the arpeggio sounds like. This is exercise number 2 on your sheet. So you can hear that's not your typical minor chord, which is what makes it so great. And then the last exercise that I want you guys to do over this is to learn some thirds, to really, really get your fingers going on this brand new type of scale for you. This is a great way to sort of mix things up after you've practiced the scale and the arpeggio for a little bit. You're feeling comfortable. By practicing and memorizing the thirds, you really start to develop some freedom using this scale and in whatever key you're in, and that makes improvising with it much, much, much more possible. So here's what the thirds sound like. So it's going to give you a little bit of dexterity with the scale and actually allow you to play it on the fly while you're improvising, which is obviously the name of the game. When we work on stuff just in the practice room and we can't transfer it to our solos, we're really doing ourselves a disservice, and we need to spend a little bit more time on the material so that we can actually organically work it into our solos. So before I play the last exercise, let's talk about where you can use this. So it works particularly well over a minor major 7 chord. Now, you've probably seen one of these before. Tunes like Solar have one of these. Another great tune is Gigi Grice's Minority. A lot of the times we play a minor major 7 as the first chord over that tune. And there's several other tunes where we see this type of chord. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a mouthful, a minor major 7 chord. But basically what that's telling us is to play a minor triad with that major 7 on top. Therefore, this scale works beautifully over that. But you can also use this scale over a regular minor 7th chord if you want. And the reason for that is basically the only thing that's different between a regular Dorian scale and this is that we're flatting the 6 and we're sharpening the 7, right? So when we have that sharp 7, that major 7, what that's functioning as is the leading tone, all right? That G sharp leads us back into A. So therefore, this can be used on pretty much any minor chord and sound good because of the presence of that leading tone. The only thing that you want to be able to do is you want to lead back to 1 when you're playing that leading tone the majority of the time, because that note is really going to pull us towards the root. So you want to make sure that you're structuring whatever you're playing around that being pulled back to the root. So experiment with this. It works, again, really well over the minor major 7. And then it's a great way to get a brand new sound over a regular minor seventh chord. So if you're kind of running out of material, you're looking for a new sound over a regular minor chord, this could be a great one for you to use. So what I've done for the last exercise on today's sheet is I've just written out a little 8-bar phrase using the scale to kind of give you a few examples on how you can use it, what might be some great ways to bring this into your solos. Feel free to rip off any of this stuff and put it in your own solos. So here's the last example on this week's PDF sheet. So there's some great ideas in there that you can definitely steal and use in your own solos, and this is a great way to spice up some of your minor chords and really play something with a brand new sound. Hopefully you can hear that leading tone and what it does for the scale in combination with the flat 6. It's really an amazing sound, one of my favorites. So definitely get this under your fingers today, work on it. Saxophone players, if you want about 30 exercises over these harmonic minor scales, you can pick up my book, my ebook, Comprehensive Saxophone Warm-Ups, and I have an entire chapter dedicated to, playing the scales, full range, playing thirds, playing fourths, playing arpeggios, all kinds of stuff that will really be a benefit for you. You can, if you play any instrument, you could use this book, but it's particularly written for saxophone players, obviously. I will include a link to be able to purchase that book underneath this week's post when you go to get your PDF. Check out the book and see if it would be something that you'd be interested in. All right, everybody, we will see you next week with a brand new episode. Please consider signing up for the Inner Circle if you enjoy what we're doing here. It only costs you $10 a month, and on top of the 4 free episodes that you get some other amazing tools that are guaranteed to make you a better player. All right, we'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good one.